Helsinki, I think also Tallinn, or no, just Helsinki, okay. He does due diligence technical for several VC funds in Estonia, I believe. And he's basically had lots of talks on generative AI and probably other related topics across EU lately. So, yeah, and he very kindly said to kind of be focused during this because he could talk all day, all evening about almost any of the questions that we're about to ask. So, should be exciting. Rein is the CTO of Ready Player Me. Probably doesn't know Man of the house. And Rein is also a man of several hats. So EEVR is producing EEVR content, probably one of the grandest in Estonia, like 6-7 years going. We've done lots of projects. Now they're actually building the PSVR 2 focused, hopefully, game.
Actually, that's not enough.
Yeah, okay. So they're working on something, but idea also lots of ambition there, and he's also one of the hosts of Puhata ja Mängida. It's the biggest gaming, it says radio show there, but it's like on YouTube, I guess. Gaming
Podcast.
Yeah, podcast with a picture. Yeah. So he's a creative director also, so he's giving more this content creation picture. And now we're getting to a few. So just to give a quick background, I thought images maybe, so Madi said that while we play this 50-second introductory video of Alpha 3D, then you can give like a ton of science behind every second, but what's actually going on there. I don't know if we can try this narration, but maybe I'll play the video and then feel free to, it doesn't have sound I believe, so feel free to narrate what's happening here. But this is basically how
so this is the platform that we have, and everybody can actually log in into that one. We have multiple options, and one of them is that built on this DALL-E Open AI API. You can type the text that you want. Currently, we are working with the sneakers. It generates you multiple sneakers as a 2D. You can pick up the one that you like, and then it will go and create you a 3D model of that one in the low polygon. So you can play around with that one. It gives you multiple options. If you want to make it high resolution, you can also request to have it in a high resolution form. You can log it, you can take it, put it into your game, put it into a special if you go there, and so on and so forth.
Nice. And I have one more slide which, sorry, this is the repeat, but the actual slide, which shows the plans for future, so it's not just shoes, obviously. Why is it so hard to go to the next slide?
Maybe you go to the next and just put it.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, we have multiple other categories to be included. Actually, right now we are including the handbags, but we have categories such as watch and many other jewelry, furnitures, and some other consumables, and some automobile and automobile parts already integrated into our solutions in our sandbox, and we are going to launch them very soon. We have a folks works with the gaming industry. We have some US and some European partners in the gaming industry, which we are producing also the 3D models and so on and so forth. We also are working a lot with NVIDIA Omniverse, and we are talking with other verses as well. We don't have any exclusivity on any of those ones. And these are our future plan that we're gonna launch our product. They are already there, but we try to kind of get the bigger market share in there.
Super nice. Here is Ready Player Me.
Yeah, so recently we, when the DALL-E came out, we wanted to somehow tap that into the resource on Ready Player Me as well. And what we built is essentially a labs experiment targeted to end users where in addition to just picking from a library of assets that you have on Ready Player Me, you as an end user can come to the platform, pick from certain presets from top, bottoms, and footwear, and then describe which kind of texture you want. So if they were just typing in like, I want a banana costume, or I want a weird pattern that has certain elements or whatever, and generate texture, we're using the OpenAI's DALL-E 2 for the image generation with some magic behind the scenes of like mapping that texture correctly onto the 3D model, and as a result, the end users were able to essentially get access to the UGC or user-generated content tool for creating their custom version of an avatar they can now wear across 7,000 different games. Yeah, so that was our first tap into generative AI.
Nice. And then we have Rein here, the trailer for that unannounced game, is that correct?
No, the game is announced. The fact that we are targeting PSVR 2 is not announced.
Okay, thank you.
So thanks for saying that.
So Rein, do you want to talk over this?
I don't have sound there.
No, we do,
Okay.
but I can turn it off. Oh, you want
No,
to
no,
read
no,
it?
please.
You woke up the single survivor of a shipwreck. You made it. But what about tomorrow? And the day after?
So basically, we are making a virtual reality survival game with a roguelike structure. We are targeting high-end VR headsets. First it's PC VR, then somewhere in the future PSVR 2. And the idea is to create a game where the player would be very physically involved with their surroundings and use kind of their real-life knowledge. So the game would be very easy to understand visually and kind of reminiscent of the real world, so that they can survive as long as they can and gradually unlock the story, which can go in different directions. So Bootstrap Island is the name of the game. We are hoping to go to early access next year, 2024.
Cool. And doesn't necessarily have anything super directly to do with generative AI, but you
I
want to
guess,
talk about how you use it in production and content creation in general.
I guess I'm the boomer in this panel. But saying that some things need to be done the old-fashioned way and the artistic integrity is important and so forth. But I do agree that game development, especially if you're targeting high-end, is too hard and it just takes too long. If outside of our game, since I'm also a game journalist, I keep an eye on a lot of game productions. I mean, it's pretty normal that when a big game is announced that the teams have actually been working on it for maybe like 6 years, and then it takes 2 or 3 years to get to the actual release. So that seems like a way too long time to make a game. So definitely AI tools and what they can offer can make people's lives easier and also get us better products. But there's definitely a fine line somewhere, like where you can use generative AI tools and where the artistic value kind of is found, because I mean, we probably don't want to pay money for stuff that the AI has generated for us. If it's free, then it doesn't matter. But I mean, yeah, that's the discussion for today, I guess.
You want to pay money? Yeah. I mean, an audience question: who has ChatGPT Plus, the paid plan? Yeah. Okay, just curious. And who's using like either ChatGPT or any visual AI creators regularly or for professional purposes? Okay. So cool. Good. So basically, this is from some Andreessen Horowitz article with a little for inspiration, little AI tools basically for creating content. But yeah, basically, so let's now get into the panel itself. So this is a basic question for anyone can take it really, but basically, how did your company's strategy change after kind of AI caught on in a big way when OpenAI introduced basically GPT and DALL-E and all the other Midjourney, all the tools that got introduced in the last few years?
Yeah, for us, like the strategy has always been about like creating the best developer tools that game developers can use and make better games. And we're very focused on the avatars and the content and the outfits and wearables, etc., that players can own, equip, and buy within the games. So that is still true. And in that sense, the strategy after the AI boom has started hasn't like truly changed that much. We still want to build the best tools, get the tools in hands of the best developers in the world, and through that grow our user base, grow the network of end users that want to have their assets available across today 7,000 different games and applications. But what the AI really did was accelerate the content production or ability for us to produce the assets much more quickly. So traditionally, creating a 3D asset for a game, especially an asset that is game ready, so there's a lot of nuance that goes into making something that is workable across all sorts of different engines, from Unity, Unreal, from the web, making that asset essentially workable in any game environment. And AI for us is really a better 3ds Max or a better blender, a better tool for us or anyone else to create 3D assets and then where custom metaverse. So Labs is an example of that from the end user's perspective. But what we're really now doing is building the next creator tools. So anyone who doesn't have any skills in 3D or Photoshop or whatever can use this tool and create an outfit that is, or any cosmetic wearable for that matter, that is great looking, people want to buy, is aesthetically pleasing, and yeah, you make users happy essentially. So for us, it's an accelerator for content predominantly. There are other areas of product that it affects, but predominantly it's the content.
I think you had in your blog post written that also like you can customize for different like body types and age and things like that as well.
Yeah.
Grammatically.
One of the things we're exploring is also like today, for example, when you create an avatar, you assemble it from parts. You pick your hairstyle and your glasses and your tops and bottoms and shoes, etc. And that is a very like boomer way of creating an avatar in that sense. Like what we want to get to is much more user-friendly or faster ways of creating completely unique outputs. So it might be a text-based avatar creator at some point, or maybe there's less intricate input that is required from the user or from the creator, and the output is as good as now, or hopefully much better. So there's a end user aspect to it as well, which makes the experience easier to use.
Shahab, did anything change for Alpha 3D?
Yeah, well, in the contrast, since the beginning in 2018 that Alpha 3D started, we have been in generative AI. AI have been our column, and we were working in order to generate the content using artificial intelligence. We were working and creating when GAN, generative adversarial neural networks was being introduced, and many of our initial works were based on that one. And so we are very happy to see that now much stronger models are coming, so we can utilize similar type of backbones and so on and so forth. We are heavily talking with the engineers and scientists, for example, in NVIDIA, with the Märt and their own way of generative AI tools and backbones that they have. So we are talking about the core level, and our target is to create the core for this 3D model creation, in a sense that rather than calling the APIs, we are selling the APIs. We are not reselling any particular sets of backbones and so on. So for us, it didn't change anything. It just helped us to kind of have a better recognition in the market that, okay, so generative AI is a cool thing. So we were tiny in Estonia, shouting, nobody was hearing, so we were waiting for somebody bigger in US to start to show, and then everybody started to say, you mean that? So this was a aha moment for us.
And I don't know if that's right, but the company was also called Alpha AR originally, and then it switched to 3D.
Yes, and the reason that we were being called Alpha AR was that we were creating 3D model targeting to be visualized in augmented reality. And the reason we changed the name was people in a very innocent form, they were all taught that we are an augmented reality company, which we are not. We literally didn't care if it is VR, AR, what it is or whatever R it is. So well, we were creating only the 3D model, especially when we started to talk with the game industry. This started to become more important because we created 3D game. It can be seen in the AR, VR, or it can be on the screen and you can play it. So we were creating the 3D content. That's why we did the change of the name from Alpha AR to Alpha 3D to remove this misinterpretation.
And Rein, in the last 6 to 12 months, when there is a new talk in town, have you decided to change the game in any way to like add some features because now they're very cheap or anything like that?
No, I think the main way that that game studios use AI in general is some tools like Midjourney for the concept level to play around with concepts and try around different things. If you already have a project and which is at some point, then it would be strange to employ AI to somehow make the project better that you're already making. One thing that definitely alters us as VR game. The thing about VR is that it takes more resources to run a VR game because you have essentially 2 cameras and a higher frame rate. But for some reason, people assume when they put on a VR headset that everything looks better than in regular Square games. So you have this problem where kind of the user expectation is that the assets are higher quality, but in technical terms, they actually need to be lower quality. So it takes a lot of work to make things look as good as they should in VR. And well, talking about AI tools, I mean, DLSS, deep learning super sampling, is definitely our friend. We're actually considering to put a minimum requirement of the game so that you can only play it on PC with the graphics card which uses DLSS, which is now, I mean, six years of cards, so it's not unreasonable. But using all kinds of optimization tools which can use AI, things that can make the game work better in the same conditions, this is probably more useful for us as a game studio. And I don't think we're an exception in that. I think most big studios, if you're a game studio or a creative studio of any kind, then using generative AI could be seen as if you're lazy, or I mean, you're not very good at your job if you're letting the programmers do it for you, because it's still kind of like an artisan thing in a way that we have actually considered that maybe we should put like a stamp somewhere that we haven't used any AI assets or AI made assets or stuff like this, but then the downside would be that one day we find out that somebody from our 3D vendors has actually used AI. We didn't know. So yeah, I think it's more tricky with AI, also because generative AI doesn't really generate things. It's more comparing other things and kind of assuming what you like. And I mean, there was this bit of a scandal recently that that Midjourney also used art of some specific artists to train their AI. So there's this legal issue that did they actually steal some artist's work in order to create their product. So yeah, as a game studio, I don't see us using generative AI that much that soon. Today.
One way to like kind of make better use of AI, especially if you're like very concerned, for example, with legal issues, etc., which are in many cases very valid, is to like use platforms or perhaps hire an AI engineer where you can train models for essentially accelerating the assets that you already produce. So an example would be Scenario. There's many other companies called Scenario.gg, and the whole point of it is like I think the base is Stable Diffusion is 4.1 version, and you upload your own data sets, and it then just creates more of the art consistent assets from things that you upload. So if you have 5 t-shirts and you want to make variation of these, and you just upload that and you get variations of them back. So it's like still your you're training your own model essentially based on your own proprietary data set. So it's like somewhere in between. Of course, it's still handling the underlying stable diffusion, which may or may not be training on a data set that's.
So if we kind of combine, we can say that both of you have some valid point, but there is something which is very important and we need to consider. There is an issue with the generative AI regarding to the IP, and it has been the issue. And the reason comes not because generative AI is a bad guy in the room. It is because the data and the bias into the data which have been provided have created these particular sets of group of artists' work to be more emphasized. So that's why they start to create. I would like to say that it is more synthesized rather than a generative concept. That's why that you can actually take, and on the last layer you can put your own data and train it over your own data. It does not remove the creativity that the artist has, the human artist has, and it need to be also taken into account when we are doing it. But one thing also in defense of this generative AI to say, I believe everybody have been to the school, and all of you can read and write, right? Very cool. And I believe everybody has read books, right? Even when you are a kid, you are reading books. Now, let's assume you want to write a love letter to your partner. I know that this is something that we don't do it much, but let's say that you want to write a love letter. Did you know that in your subconscious you have got inspired lots of romantic things that you have seen in movie and read in a book and so on? Now the question is how much you are copying. The reality is that we are not copying, we are getting inspired, and generative AI is actually getting inspired. I fully understand there are cases that because they're having huge bias over the data, it didn't get inspired, it literally started to copy. But it is not the algorithm's fault. It was the way that you were giving. Let's assume, I don't know, I'm not a romantic person, but let's say that Shakespeare was a romantic person. Let's assume for a second. And you only read in whole your life Shakespeare work. If you want to write a love letter for your partner, do you know how you would like it? You will write it like Shakespeare, because this is the only type of data that came to your mind and went to your mind. So this is the same thing with the generative AI, where it starts to create something which is like a copy. So it's get back to the data. It's still a legal issue, but yeah.
It's kind of hard to imagine a person who's only read Shakespeare and no other books.
I try to give a very extreme example for you so everybody can click with the concept and the issue associated to that concept.
I mean, you have a point, but it would be, if you're a game studio and you're selling a game, it would be very hard to give this train of thought to your users.
Yeah, there are two questions. I say one sentence and shut up, I promise you. And the thing is that there are two things in a game. One is the characters and the content and the items that you have, and the other is the flow of the game. And I think what makes you very unique is not to have unique face. You have a unique story inside it. That's why it makes your game different from another game. Otherwise, all of them have a person, potentially with a beard, and you have a knife, you get upgraded to the gun. I mean, so the items seems to be very similar, different colors. So the story is what makes it very different. They're very, what's the question?
Yeah. So I mean, I've seen some comparisons made recently, I believe with the Mid-Journey and then this Adobe Sprite. And what Adobe Sprite was putting out was pretty much completely useless. And what Mid-Journey is putting out is something that is relatable. It can relate to content that it's been trained on, which means that you know, if you're trying to define something, then it's going to give you something closer to what you're looking for compared to, you know. So I mean, and a lot of people are doing kit bashes in general. So what's the difference between using an asset that was made one way or another?
Yeah, sure. That's a very good point. That's kind of, I think, where we are at right now. That we are discovering that, you know, that we are using so much assistive tools already that, you know, generative AI doesn't really change that much. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
I
a lot
also
of fun.
went to game design school, and basically you take the textures on the internet, you put them together, and then it works, and it's been like this forever, I think. So that's the way to automate it.
The upgrade is often from like people finding somehow that their data was part of the data set, and that's frustrating. There were even some watermarks appearing in the corners of images that were generated, which is like, hey, that's my watermark. How did this image get into this model in the first place? So people are not aware that they have been used as a training set. I think that's what's frustrating for people. It's a surprise.
Anything on the internet is kind of fair game at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when we,
My comment actually was similar about the last one, about copying other people's work and then putting it to train your own generative AI and etc. And it's like it's getting inspired, but it's not actually you're putting the work there. So it's kind of like how much you put that stuff into, like from one artist or another. That makes sense, but it should also be like artists should be able to choose if he wants to that his work to be trained on generative AIs or not. So there's like you can clearly link these two things, while with inspiration with humans you clearly can't link, or at least if you're saying to the person you stole it from this artist, then he says no, and there's no way you can actually prove it if it doesn't look like more than a 50% similar, yeah? So that's where the difference is, I guess.
okay, is there a way to check definitively whether your work was included in some data set?
So
There are, depends. With the LLMs, there are ways that you can find out if it has been generated because of the type of the pattern it creates. I know that with the DALL-E, if something has been created, OpenAI has created a tool that it understands, because we probably they put some sort of signature inside it. But it's very difficult if randomly you pick up something to know if it is a person created or something else has been created. Actually, I want to say something. What's your name, sir?
Roland.
Roland said something very nice. I actually posted around maybe a month ago in the LinkedIn. The difference between human generativeness and AI generativeness in something very cool. AI, when we say generative as a human, it's made of 99% synthesizing and 1% of inspiration. And this 1% is the line which is currently putting us not to be in singularity. Because the AI is synthesized without having any inspiration, simply because it doesn't have the feeling of inspiration. Yet, we don't know what's gonna happen in 6 months, but today, still because it only learns from the data and so on, it would be very cool. And I have one small story to that time.
Yeah, sure,
cool.
sure. So let's do it.
In 2014, I work in the University of Tartu. I'm a professor in the University of Tartu. So in 2014, there was a Japanese company came to Estonia called Superlab, and they were looking for a lab which can help them with something. And what they were doing, they were creating the anime characters. And did you know that the anime characters, they are actually doing it with the hand? It was so amazing. I went to Japan, to Nagoya, and I saw they had 130 artists who were sitting and drawing. So what they wanted to do was, all of these artists have drawn lots of cool things, and we were only talking about the equipment, like a sword, shield, and so on. And then a gamer Rein came and said that I want to create an anime game. And in there, I would like to have some shields with the dragon, so he describes. And what the artist at the time was doing was that they were going over thousands of pages of the shields with the dragon that they have, or the other people in the company, because I belong to the company. And they were looking in order to get inspired. So at that time, they asked us that they gave all the data. So they were writing and typing that they are looking for a shield in the shape of an olive with a dragon and a unicorn. Somebody had this unicorn thing. So, and with a unicorn. So it started to create from the existing data something. So it was synthesizing it, not in this level that today we have, but at the acceptable level. And the aim of these Japanese people was amazing. They said that they want to free the time of the artist in order to utilize all that time into creativity. Because looking at the old sample and synthesizing has zero inspiration. So this is how I look at generative AI can help every people who work for you and so on. They can look at all of those ones and then use their inspiration and create something novel which can have their signature at the bottom of it, and then you can say that this is unique by us. Maybe some part of it has been generated by AI, no offense, but the inspiration which makes it very, very unique.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
That's definitely something that artists can use generative AI for, to get inspiration and to find some sort of style, because just writing a prompt and getting something back, kind of, or already flares something up in your brain, and then you can use that and work on that.
Yeah, like one very similar example is like, we produce a lot of outfits. We have a relatively small art team, and one of the ways we, started looking into like how can we use AI for, we know that the text to 3D, like full game ready asset is just not there yet, but maybe we can apply it somehow for making the production easier. So Shana there, our R&D leads, essentially made a data set from making a bunch of screenshots from the ready-to-meet avatar editor, just training data with screenshots of our outfits or full body characters. And then Shana can talk a lot more about it, but essentially built a custom model on top of Stable Diffusion that now you can type a prompt like, give me a medieval character with, black and white stripes on a shirt. And as an output, you get ready-to-meet styled characters that, visually speaking, look like they could be part of the platform. So now just generating concepts that our concept artists and 3D artists can iterate on is one prompt away. So that was a massive. It's actually, you can probably share it as well. It's an online tool that can play around with it. So
We have a link. Show notes.
share it. Probably share some.
Good. Sorry, Mr. Can you move a bit to the right because you're blocking the camera? Thank you.
Where can I write more? It's just on the beer, so.
Put it on a sticky note and put it here.
Sorry, I have another question. I guess that's more towards Ready Player Me and your generative AI kind of idea. I don't know if I understood correctly, but to me it seems like you need to put place in lots of guardrails as well, as we're seeing with OpenAI. People are like doing bad stuff or trying to force the generative AI to do something stupid.
Yeah.
So for your avatars as well, like I can imagine the vast majority of them are kids, like 13 to 14. Their mind goes wild. They want to generate like, I don't know. Okay, let's not start describing what they want to generate. But like there seems to be a lot of guardrails. So in your sense, it seems like you have to choose between like a whitelist and blacklist. Right now you are doing the kind of like one way, which kind of limits your output, but on the other hand you are in control, while the other way is just like you let the control loose a little bit, but you get more output. So it seems like a very dangerous step there. Like, what's your plans?
It's an intricate balance of like how much freedom you give to users, because if you give full freedom, they're gonna go make the worst things you imagine, right? So there's a few ways we tackle that. One thing is just the most simple review process. So if an asset is produced, before it can be accessed across the different applications, it has to go through our visual validation. So think like content moderators on YouTube who spend hours every day, tens of thousands of hours every day.
You have those people, like dozens of people who just look at their office.
No, it's something we're actually doing this quarter, because we're having the APIs and the tools for anyone to create an asset. But that's the most basic way of just reviewing. But the other way is prompt engineering. So when you actually type, like in the labs experiment, when you type something in, there's a negative prompts, I believe, that we apply that behind the scenes the user doesn't know about, that makes it more safe. And in addition, because we're using DALL-E 2, then they already also have some, OpenAI is already taking care of that from their REST API endpoint. That you can't really generate things that are full of profanity or something. So there are a couple of layers there, but it's certainly something we are keeping our eyes on, because trust and be trusted is one of our core values of the company, and that also goes to the companies and developers that integrate our systems. So if one day just randomly some complete crap appears in their game, then we are to blame. So
Okay, thank you for that.
Sure.
People are creative in coming up with some crap anyway. Like you could combine different avatars together to make some crap, which individually doesn't. Okay. Yeah, when we had this preparatory discussion about this panel, then we actually, so the two biggest things that we discussed then are, biggest issues are basically the IP rights and also the transfer of kind of jobs. And we we came to the conclusion that in a way, content creation or kind of enabling the gaming and virtual worlds productions, it's not that big of an issue as in many other fields. Just wanted to point that out. I know we talked a bunch about IP now and so on. What about when you look into the future and you see like in a year or two, basically you can create images, you can create video. I think it's already kind of happening. I mean, not that much into the future. You can basically create entire scenes by saying what you want to see, like 3D models and textures and so on. Like, do you see that kind of turning some things on their heads that relates to your business? Or wants to take that? Because it's like
for us, I hope it will happen because it's booming the business. Every single one of them require this 3D content creation that through the API we provide. I cannot talk on behalf of other people, but I hope it will happen sooner.
Yeah, I mean, for us, like, it's probably like majority of the like from our perspective, like again, AI is a tool just for creating more assets, and we like if you have more abundance of things, that always creates more scarcity as well, or scarcity appears in a different place. So what I mean by that is, if you have tens and hundreds of thousands of or millions of different assets that now are super high quality, can be mass produced by anyone, then what the scarcity now is artists and creators and product designers that pick from those that are the most liked by the users or are going to create the most revenue or whatever your goal is. So from that abundance comes always more some level of new scarcity as well. But like ultimately we know that we strongly believe that more and more things will be in the creative industry accelerated by AI. Every aspect of game design is going to be changed by AI, whether it's 3D content creation or generation of infinite quest lines that are always interesting, creation of infinite worlds that are generated by AI on a model basis, but also in the structure of cities or environments or whatever. Audio is generated by AI. There was an experiment where a screenshot was taken from a game every I think 24 frames or something. That screenshot was sent into image to text. I think that was from the OpenAI, and then text was passed into the text to audio model by Google. And as a result, you have game audio that always matches what the player is looking at. So every single aspect of 3D worlds is going to be affected by the AI.
Rein, what do you think about that? Your craft is going in the way of the dodo.
I mean, I think I think we all appreciate better tools, but there's a distinction whether you're making a premium type of game or a free mobile game.
An AI making.
I think we are going to see probably all the asset flips in the mobile stores or Steam and everywhere. They are going to be even worse. They are going to be AI flips. Maybe they're not even made by real studios, but AI controlled studios. Just pushing stuff out there and seeing what happens. But I think with more like AA, AAA, 4A type of games, you don't see it that much. We will probably see some scandals about it, that somebody finds out that some big studio which sells their game for 70 or 80 euros is using AI in their game. So far, the only example was I can't remember the name. The guy who made Rick and Morty made this new shooter game. High on Life. Yes, they had AI created images on the walls, so it fit the theme in that level very well. And that was not a big deal, but in the future we will probably see some level of scandals about that. And there probably would be a distinction, sort of quality-wise, like which will use AI tools and which just which kind of projects just kind of push all the work that they're doing to AI. And I don't think that artists will need to worry that their jobs are obsolete in near future or even farther away.
A few weeks.
That's a few weeks are the same. So. But I think one one strange, artistically speaking, one thing is that getting good at your art is really difficult. It takes really long time, and if it's so much easier to just generate a model or an image in just seconds, compared to tens of thousands of hours of practicing and doing unpaid work, that this thought is definitely scary to a lot of people who are not maybe world-class talents, but
that's why I don't want to use ChatGPT for writing long-term content, because I feel like it just generates it and it's amazing. I don't feel like from the creative point of view, but if I write something down, for me that's thinking and understanding the problem. I don't want that to be generated. So maybe that's something.
I think the issue of this scandal will be solved by having the wider usage of AI. Currently, there are this legal issue associated due to the IP, but this will be sorted out through some sort of copyright payment, new schemes, and so on. And I am seeing the days that all the game and things will be generated by AI, and AI will have super cool strategy in the gaming, make it super exciting and even very difficult to get to the next level and so on. So this will happen, and really it doesn't care if you like it or not. And then I talked with Rein a few days ago, and I said something which I believe that will happen. I love watches. Do you like watches?
Love it.
Yeah, cool. So, do you know Patek Philippe?
Yep.
So, on an average, a normal basic Patek Philippe brand new is like something like 130,000 euro and above, right? And a typical Patek Philippe watch has around 2,000, it's actually 1,700 something. Let's say 2,000 people touching it before they make the watch. And I'm sure that you can buy a watch by Hugo Boss, by Tissot, or many other ones. Not that they are bad watches, but they are ones that have been created through the factory with this automation. And you can buy it for, I don't know, 300 euros, 400 euros, 500 euros, and so on and so forth, based on the brand. And why you are paying 130,000, it's because it's fully manually created, automatic watch and so on.
So there will be video games that cost 100,000?
Yes, exactly. There will be 3D models and games which will become very, very much unique. There will be games generated by AI which can be very expensive. Let me give you another example. Painting. Painting is more expensive than printing a photo today. Maybe around 100 years ago, there was this issue with the camera that was coming out, photo machine they called it, an initial word, that lots of artists and painters will be out of the job. They were out of the job, they became a photographer. But at the same time that the painting is more expensive today, ask somebody to draw you a picture and go and take a photo and print it in the photo booth, and you see that the difference is magnitude of x10, x20. However, you can find a photo which costs 100,000 or 1 million because the photographer is a famous person. So what I'm trying to say is that there will be some AI-produced game or 3D models which can compete with the human-generated, but at some soon period of time, we will find out that people are accepting to get 3D models, because my grandmother is not that rich. I mean, she's dead, obviously. I mean, she's not that rich. And she wants to have the items in 3D because she wants to sell her mug or her chair. And she wants to put it in the eBay form, which has the ability to show the thing in 3D. And she doesn't want to pay 10 euro to sell a 7 euro old chair. She wants to pay 10 cents, 5 cents. So that's okay, AI generated. I don't care at all. This is what the general people are talking about. Of course, we have a special class of people, the gamers, game designers, which then the legal things become very important. In real play, I mean, you cannot have some copyrighted items inside the shirt, they will sue them and get all the money out of them. We won't be here. So no, these are all reality. I mean, you're laughing at it, but this is all reality. However, things are changing because it is happening. It's happening so much. Then Spotify came and say, I distribute the copyright. That's how you will be able to listen to music for 10 cents, for 7 cents, because the copyright is distributed over all the users. Yes?
Yeah, so following your Spotify, what about this kind of spin that all the artists will start to license their work for model training, and for that they will get their fair share because that's your work. No model, every model is as good as its data, right? So there will be models, I guess, that will include only this special artist and only this exclusivity.
And you know that there is a discussion with Morgan Freeman to sell his voice license to be generated.
He could do
and that. This guy will never get old. Tom Cruise. They are using Tom Cruise for generating videos, and there was this big news that Tom Cruise said that he did not finalize the contract yet, and people are using it. So it means that even the artists start to actually sell their videos and so on. So the flow has started. It's not an epidemic yet, but it is coming. I think none of us hopefully will die and will see that day, because it is coming, if it continues with this speed, without any pausing and stopping and regulation. Maybe in a couple of years we will have this panel, but we will talk totally different levels and things.
Because we will be AI avatars.
Potentially, not AI avatars, but there might be lots of AI avatars who will ask the question, and then he will say that I'm using ChatGPT.
Rein, are there any like specialists or game crafting professionals that you're looking forward to kind of getting rid of when they get automated AI? Are they dealing with some? Or just profession itself, like, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I'd like to use AI to create the AI in the game. And that would be Meetup, you know.
Or you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But we discussed that there won't be any shift or loss of jobs and so on. There will be shift of jobs. And the question that you asked was actually a very nice question. That Rein, will be anybody that you will get rid of it as soon as the AI become big
Well, that was kind of just a year ago. That was the idea why you would work in a creative field. Is that then you don't get replaced by machines. So
no. The question is not being replaced by machine. Remember, guys, it's very simple. It's a shift of jobs. I'll give you another example. I love examples. Around 20 years ago, if you were living in London and so on, one of the highest jobs in London was a black cab driver. It has extremely tough exam. You need to know the Zone 1 and Zone 2 like back of your hand, all the street and alleys and so on. And because the exam was very expensive, the demand of people were high and the number of people who were passing was very limited. And you know what happened 20 years ago? Uber and GPS came out. And as a result, these black cab drivers, they lost huge revenue, and their revenue went down to around 20% of their previous revenue. But since that till today, the number of taxi drivers in London have been increased by 80%. So it means there is a shift of job that will happen. He may fire some people because he says that I don't need that one, but I will need you for something else. There was a very funny comment in the LinkedIn that the guy said, the boss came and said that, hey, George, you are fired. And George said, but what can I do? And the boss said, we are looking for a prompt engineer. Can you type? So you see, there's a shift of job. The title of the person will change, or he may need to upskill and learn some new skill sets and so on. But please remember, there will be people who will pay huge money for the original handmade, human-made models, games, and so on. And still the inspiration is the tip line of saving humanity from singularity.
I think in recent years, or quite a few years actually now, is in game development there's been like some solo developers who have basically made a game just by themselves, which is in the 90s or early 2000s, it just wasn't possible. The amount of work that you needed to do, it was just too great. But now, in recent years, it has been possible. It's still really hard. But if these AI tools empower people to create better artistic content because of that, then that's definitely the other side of the thing. But the thing about, of course, game development is that when studios have gotten really big and very hard to maintain, also creatively, then I mean that's a problem with Ubisoft, for example, that Ubisoft makes open world games that are really, really similar. They like take place in completely different time periods and places in space or medieval times, but they feel really, really similar. And then, yeah, it kind of feels like a reskin in a way.
Is it bad?
And yeah, it's definitely bad. And then when a company like Ubisoft would be using AI generative AI to work on these type of games, it wouldn't make that much of a difference anyways.
How many people are using, playing this Ubisoft? Oh, I'm not a gamer, you don't understand it now by this question.
No, they're big games, but their numbers in recent years are definitely down because there's this fatigue of the same type of games, and something that they're like in a higher level probably is some sort of like creative control. I mean, it's the same in film industry that when production gets big enough, then the creative leads lose control because
also comes from the cost, right? Like production of like fully new game with a fully new model set, or I guess if you look at Assassin's Creed, then yeah, they're like very similar in gameplay and so forth.
Yeah.
Change the tree structure or quest line and new assets and environments. But like producing something that is like completely novel, from Witcher 3 to Cyberpunk, it's a completely different game, right? Same studio, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's so much more expensive, and the reason why there's Call of Duty after Call of Duty, or it used to be like that, and then there's an Assassin's Creed after Assassin's Creed that is looking and feeling similar, is because it's so much cheaper to just reskin the same, like mass-produce games, essentially, because people are still buying them.
Yeah, but when you have thousands of people working on these games, they're completely different studios, and like outsourced studios that work on this. For example, with Far Cry 5, it was basically a big map. It took place in the US, and the big map was essentially 3 parts, and these were basically sorry, they were kind of the same thing built by different studios. So the storyline in all of these advanced really similarly, and they didn't flow together at all. I mean, in each of these, your character gets kidnapped constantly, and then it's like, how many times can you get kidnapped? It's like it seemed like they weren't really communicating or working together, and that's the problem. What you have.
What AI can solve it.
That's actually where I'm getting at is that this is the sort of production where it would be better if less people would be working on this, because they would be using better tools and they would be more empowered by it. It's not maybe such a tragedy that 1,000 people are not working on this game. They could be used on another game.
Yeah, I think one interesting shift is also more and more of the creation of an asset goes into the hands of end users. So if you take that away, then you have these amazing tools. Maybe they are powered by AI, maybe not. But if you put the content creation in the hands of end users, that they are the producers of, well, it's not applicable for story-based games, etc. But think Roblox or Fortnite, where just much more turning into Roblox is the leader of the UGC platform. Tens and tens of millions of assets are being produced by the players themselves, and Roblox doesn't create any of the assets, or at least they're not in the position of producing them. So it's kind of interesting to see with more of those platforms such as Fortnite, recently opened up the Fortnite the Unreal Engine for Fortnite. So now anyone that is in the partnership can create their own Fortnite island, create completely novel games that are they're like separate islands in a sense. That they're not connected together like those 3 were. And each of these islands can have completely novel and different gameplay. And many of these tools in Roblox, they're partly are already accelerating AI. For example, code generation, asset generation, material generation from textures. So it's like big gaming companies have a lot of incentive, especially when they're UGC driven, to give even better tools. So anyone that doesn't have a 3D skill can produce content for the platform. But at the same time, if you want to build a Far Cry 5, which is I believe, single player game and it's a PC experience, then you want to have a unified look and feel for it to be a great, single player.
Yeah, and I mean, the interesting thing about Roblox is kind of their visual style is that it looks ugly.
Yeah.
but with I was visiting this video that their tools are constantly getting upgraded.
Yeah.
Just some of these games are actually starting to look like real games that they're making Roblox. So again, yeah, like this sort of. I mean, they won't compete with big studios, but they can still be very, very competent games, and they can be like this sort of a sandbox or a playing field where some talented users can be also empowered to create some pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah.
I think Roblox like upgrades as their core users get older, and they kind of increase the graphic fidelity and so on. And previously, in defense of Ubisoft, I'm sure they know how similar their Assassin's Creeds are. And they're just doing the business decision.
They're not doing that well in recent years. They seem to be in a low place at the moment, but hopefully they will.
How much
resurge.
money are they
Yeah.
Not as much as they used to.
Yeah, let's get some questions maybe.
I'm just thinking about it, like with this UGC. Nowadays, they're really giving the creators some monetization there. But I mean, people have been modding games without any monetization for years. So, do you believe that this actually incentivizes them to create more, or do you think it's going to be
100%. Like, people want to make more money from that. Like,
what about how do they? That's the thing. I think with the model of doing this is all this licensing and all that has to be built in because these people they can't negotiate that or pay for their lawyers or IP lawyers. So I think that's like a key to that, right?
Yeah, that's the revolution of the platform. So many games that are turning, like Fortnite is again a great example. It was a zombie survival game turned into a battle royale, turned into battle royale being one of the thousands of different games that are on the Fortnite ecosystem. So it turns more into giving more control to the users. So for example, with Fortnite Creative, they are what we call it the islands. And it's the creator tools. Then the revenue share, for example, is like for the creators. Yeah, exactly. Like, they're very positive in the they're very friendly towards the creators. I think there's a 40% cut from based on the player activity. And there's a lot of incentive for anyone that has skills in 3D or game design, etc., to produce those experiences because whenever players come into those experiences, then the revenue share from the total assets sold, which I believe are just the marketplace assets sold on Epic Games, that revenue is then shared across the creators of the islands based on player activity and retention and things like that. So I think with more tools, more power to the creators, more great games and experiences, sub-games, etc. will be built, and that incentivizes players because it's a new way to make money.
But regarding to this legal part, so we are creating lots of 3D items, people are using our AI and they generate it, and there is this question, valid question, which we don't have the answer. And our answer is usually like this. We are waiting for a big issue comes out. Currently it's not a big issue. And then there will be a regulation by the states, by the union, by the world and so on, and then we start to follow it. Today it's not, in a sense that today if you are taking from ChatGPT example, right? Generate something with the ChatGPT, something about today the weather is cloudy and it's not raining, make me two romantic sentence, and it generates you two things, and then it says that in conclusion something, right? And you copy it and you post it into your blog. Nobody will take you to the court that you stole something from OpenAI. Nobody will do anything. There is a little bit of shaming that, oh, you use ChatGPT, and people laugh and it passes and so on. But there isn't any consequences from it. In the academic world, it has become kind of a standard. If you are using ChatGPT, in the co-author, you are writing after your name or whatever name, comma, ChatGPT. So people understand it's like an academic ethics that you are giving it back to the society. That some part of this text has been polished or generated by ChatGPT. But in the real world, currently there isn't anything until it becomes an important thing.
A great example about those IP rights and copyright and so on is the music industry. So if you think how hip hop or rap music started, it was all like sampling, taking something from like James Brown music, taking that beat there and then adding something new on top of it. So probably something similar will happen with
exactly. It will come.
Yeah,
people
exactly.
are cooking something, but we don't have anything tangible to say this is the way that we have to follow.
Yeah.
And a lot of the conversations around the legal aspects are around like 3D art and artist work, and I think it's because it's the most visual, right? It's the most striking, it's the most obvious. The ArtStation has.
There are lots of news that the artist says, I know they took my art because the DALL-E, or was it Midjourney, I don't remember, that's a DALL-E, generated and the signature partly was generated in there. But do you know what was the result of the court? There is no law. We don't know what to do. Finished. So it was kind of dismissed, and now they start to work into it. And as you said, they try to look at distributive copyright. That I go and I talk with an artist, pay that money, and use the images to train the AI and those type of things. I don't know how it can be regulated, but with high probability there will be a way. Yes.
Yeah. So like maybe you can answer that question, or my thought there is that we're generating more and more output that may be intaken by the models themselves. So the models are starting to train on their own stuff, which we know will fuck up the models in long term, which has happened already in like algorithm training, where they have used models and where they make decisions, and then they understand that they were making decisions based on their own decisions. So basically that will be a problem for those big models at the end, because they can't anymore like understand what's their work, what's someone else's work, so they kind of need that human curation anyway, and ChatGPT has human curation anyway for the answers and questions part. They have people in between for the training, so like yeah, they have no other way. At least I haven't thought like.
But you brought up, and there is a concept called responsible AI. Have you heard of it? This is a big movement. It started around 6 years ago in order to avoid rogue AI, and it has a variety of aspects that need to be checked. Through PwC, I'm one of the global driver force of this responsible AI. And you know that the Microsoft bought the OpenAI. This group of in US, the head of responsible trustworthy AI, they call it. They said that some of this training that they are doing is not legal. It's not in the framework of responsible AI, and Microsoft solved the problem. They fired everybody from that group and they closed it. You know, it was a big news. But what he said was a very, very important aspect, and the aspect is actually much bigger. Let me scare you and tell you what is the problem. The GPT-3 was being trained over billions of documents, books, and lots of online material. Then the GPT-4 has been trained with trillions of these sorts of materials. And since the GPT-4 was being launched, I read it somewhere in the forums, but it was not being credited with anything creditable, but it was written that on every second, 2 million text is being generated globally by ChatGPT, which is published online. This means that the GPT-5 is now start to have a bias with the materials that it generates. Imagine that it starts a group of people, let's say Putin, will start to generate every day huge amounts of information about how handsome he is. And then it goes online, and GPT will learn. GPT-6 will learn because the 5 is already under the training, and it starts to generate text in line of that one. It means that the misinformation starts to play a very important role. And the human in the loop is a dot in an ocean, because per second, 2 million will be generated. What is the population of the Earth if everybody is working on checking if these materials are correct or not? So the situation is actually very scary. Maybe we don't feel it, we don't understand it because it's fun what GPT is generating. But if it started to become guided in a negative form, it can be very, very dangerous. And it is one of the biggest problems that currently in the community of responsible AI is being discussed. The material that are being generated by AI will be reused to train AI. And the moment that we have self-aware AI, it's called GAI, General Artificial Intelligence. This is the one that's gonna kill all of us, right? So the moment that it is there, it is self-aware, it can do something like this. AI understands that if you unplug it from the electricity, it goes done, right? So it means that I need a big source of energy. So how can I have a big source of energy? One of them is hydrogen fusion. Where do we have hydrogen fusion? On the sun. So it tries to get to this huge source of energy, so it tries to turn the Earth into the sun. This is actually one of the things that Jan Kali was saying it, so I don't have any credit over that one. So it means that in order to get to the huge source of energy, all of us will die unless that we go to Mars or somewhere else. So this is the problem. And what the regulations, what Italy tried to call, what the regulation and all the hype is actually about creating a regulation that will not happen. We cannot really stop development of AI. Okay, you stop in US. Can you stop it in China? Can you stop it in Saudi Arabia? Can you stop it in Russia? No, you can't. Creation of atomic bomb is banned. Only some countries can create it. It's well regulated. But North Korea is doing it. It's that I don't give a shush. Right? Do you get my point? So we say that in Europe nobody will create it. But what about somebody in Africa? There are lots of smart people. They can get lots of resources. So that's the thing, which is actually start to become very much scary. Regulation says, let's develop the AI with the highest speed. Let's have the gains generated by AI, but let's make it a good AI that one day, if the bad AI comes, it can help us to kind of survive. Like movies, Transformers, a robot against a robot to save humans and so on. We don't know. I mean, they are all goes to the conspiracy, but the danger that Ronald mentioned is a very serious danger that in the community of responsible AI is heavily discussed. Go and think about it.
And does OpenAI itself, OpenAI has, it was basically established to have good people like lead the development of AI, right? So
car was being created, automobile was being created to help us to go from one location to other location faster. How many in the past 5 years terrorist attack in Europe we have seen that people with the car are driving to the other people and kill them? So OpenAI had a good intention. All the scientists had a good intention. Most of them have a good intention. My intention is making money. So, but the thing is that there are some who don't have that good intention and can use the core. You know that the application layer of ChatGPT, all the API that you use are passing through the filter. And this was Elon Musk who said that if somebody steals the core, they can do huge damage that you won't believe it. He said that if some dictator take a hands into that, then it is like the end. You will never know what you are hearing is true. And Jan Kali said that the singularities happen. I told that the singularity is not happening. AI will not kill us. Do you know who will kill us? Exactly. So AI will start to create the different views, and then people start to contradict with one another and be scared of belief. If AI become a religion, that is the bad moment. remember, we had these ISIS, like those very radical believers who were killing other people, and they killed themselves too. They believe in what they were doing. This is the scary part. They believe they were doing something good and so on. And imagine that AI will create these sorts of understanding. It will take time, but it will take time, and if it happens, we have to be aware and regulated.
This was like interesting. I didn't know the answer, but there was a great question. I think it was in one of the podcasts with Amal and the David Deutsch, who is the author of a book that also discussed AGI and human intelligence, etc. And one of his points was that I don't know how to think about it, but maybe you can answer top. Is today, the next GPT version, the next is trained on more and more data, right? More input, trillions, whatever. And that means the new model is just predicting statistically better results from from an increased pool of inputs. And think about it, then wouldn't a general intelligence? So the argument was that we're actually not moving towards AGI, but we're actually moving backwards. In the sense that an AGI system will be something that requires less input to come up with more creative outputs. Almost like a human that hasn't seen a house but has heard of a house, then can figure out how that might look based on descriptions of other people. So the argument was that with more and more data being added, we're actually kind of not moving towards AGI.
Like overfitting of data.
Yes, it creates that one, and then the bias will become very important. We do it as a human. How many of you have eaten snake?
Snake?
Yeah. It tastes like chicken. Do you know why I say it's like chicken? Because everybody has eaten chicken, and you know what is the taste of chicken. But if you eat lots of snake, you say that no, it tastes like snake, and chicken tastes like chicken. So the thing happened. No, this is how it can happen with this general AI that can come and can become dangerous and all the things. But it can also come and become very useful and help us too. So the regulation become the very important thing that we need to take into account. But one thing also, one more. And the thing is that with the LLMs, we are getting lots of these text materials, LLMs, large language models. And there are lots of danger and things associated. As I said, it can create this diversity between people, create a hatred in the higher level and so on. Do you know what is the next level of the data? Because how many texts do we have? 3 zillion, whatever. And then it will be finished, right? Then it will go to the second dimension and the images. And then the zillion of images now have the 2-dimensionality, which it will become crazy. And then what will be the scary part? Is game. Why? Okay. Now, let me tell you. It learns, takes the games and videos and learn. Please Google, there was a news that a guy in the US was playing the game, and he was playing the game so much that he found the game as part of his life, and he went out and killed people. So now, imagine that it learns, and the behavior that it learns from the game will become the kind of concept of reality for it to do it. So I want all of us to think ahead of, I write to ChatGPT, tell me this, and it said that, Think bigger, that how crazy it can go, and it can go. Elon Musk signed a letter to stop things for 6 months, and he bought 1,000 GPU for Twitter. So he wants 6 months so he can catch to the speed. And he in the Twitter has the memes, the pictures, so they are going crazy. I have a friend who is a machine learning scientist in Twitter. And he said that now they are talking about putting this multimodality inside it, so it's going crazy. This competition is very nice. As a scientist, I enjoy, I publish on that. But imagine the AI gets the game and learn and understand this is a reality. Make a decision based on that one. Imagine those Boston robots will have those AI in their brain, and they think it's part of the nature. In the game, you take this and you see somebody and you start to slap him. Why? Because it is GTA. Why? Because it's killing a zombie. And then imagine that one, look at you and thinks that, I mean, I'm an ugly person, so he thinks I'm a zombie. So it, right? So this is the thing. I mean, we have to consider.
Isn't there a danger that is much closer? I don't know if you.
Sorry, can you repeat from the beginning?
Isn't there a danger that is much closer than this? You probably have seen these pictures of the Pope wearing this white
exactly
thing that were absolutely believable. Everyone believed them.
Yeah.
How long? Now we can make pictures, we can make deep fakes, we can train voice AI on your voice. So
3.5 weeks ago, Jan Kalin said 6 months. So I'm not talking about my grandson will see and so on. It's very close to there, and that's why that today in the morning in the PwC Responsible AI chat they post that the U.S. is now putting in the Congress this Responsible AI Act. So actually all countries have started to move because we are right, we are very close. I mean, we are not talking about creating a rocket science and then take the radioactive material, wait for 64 months that it will, no, we are talking about 100 lines of codes, which now AI can generate it by itself. So we are close. I cannot tell you how close, but we are not that far.
At the same time, Elon Musk has been saying that self-driving cars are coming next year since 2014, so kind of don't know how much we don't know in a way.
It's a publicity stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean...
I say something. Do you know what is the scary part of ChatGPT? Which OpenAI, the only official announcement that they did, they said that our scientists do not know how this LLM is generating this sentence. This is called explainability of AI, XAI. The moment you don't know what the thing happened, it becomes scary. I am a little bit scared of darkness. And you know why? Because I don't know what's gonna happen. But if you turn on the light, I am literally not scared of anything. Because I can see, I can react, I can scream if needed, I can run away from it, not that I will go and fight. But the problem with the darkness is you don't know, you don't see, and then you don't have the explainability. You are walking in the darkness. OpenAI is the only official thing that they said, because they said everything is ethical and so on. They said that even our scientists do not know how it works.
Can I say something real quick? I think that might also be a bit of a publicity stunt to make it seem like their tool is actually as good or better than they actually made it.
Possible, we don't know.
We don't know.
But this is the part, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Bard, the Google one is also there. And it is, I don't know if you have used it. If you use it, in Estonia you can't, but in UK you can go to waiting list and some of my friends have. It's unbelievable. ChatGPT is a joke. It's like a kindergarten writing. My niece, Sophie, is 6 years old. Potentially she writes the same as ChatGPT. All of us writes better if you compare it like Bard and ChatGPT. So things are actually in a very, very crazy form. I mean, as he said, we are very closer than imagination that can happen and so on. Sorry, your question was?
Yeah, my question wasn't a question rather than a comment yet again. Sorry for that, and sorry for not being like into the game environment too much. But weren't you kind of referring that the current generative AIs are nothing more fancier than just like fancy pattern matching algorithms? So they cannot establish kind of rules themselves.
Actually, I saw the NVIDIA keynote, and basically it knows how to play chess super well. It is pattern matching, but it also needs to rationalize behind it. That's quite big.
It needs to do the reasoning. So we did a big study. By we, I mean colleagues in PwC did a big study, and they found out, because they wanted to see how ChatGPT, specifically ChatGPT, can affect on the job of consultants. I mean, consulting firm, of course they were worried about that one. And they came to one conclusion. ChatGPT today, on 13th of April, it can create an excellent framework. It creates an excellent bullet, but it's empty inside. Still, the creativity is missing. It generates something which is amazing, but if you are an expert in whatever field you are, you read, you say that this is very cool, but where is the thing? So still, it is missing. That's one.
Consultants were these who came up with that finding.
Then it shows that it's very useful. You know that I don't know if you know Harvey, the world most famous ChatGPT-based legal tool, which PwC is now working with that one. It creates an excellent framework, and then client by client, they are filling it based on the content. It's good, go and use it, utilize it. Self-driving car comes, excellent. For 2 hours of driving from Tartu to Tallinn, luckily my car can do almost self-driving, so I can text, email, and all other things, but it can save huge amount of wasted time in that perspective.
I just think it's kind of a comment as well, but also I wanted to kind of get your guys' kind of take on this, but how originally OpenAI was meant to be an open AI where, open source and, and then what happens? They see some cash, $10 billion from Microsoft and access to their Azure servers, and then all that goes out the window. So a lot of contradictory kind of statements. So how do we, how do we trust these guys who have a stated goal and then they change from that goal immediately?
Okay, I have an answer for this. Can I say? So I'm I told you, you have to stop. I'm coming from a Jewish family, so I'm Jew, and I can tell you something. As in my life, I'm 42 years old, so in 42 years, actually that first 3 years I didn't remember anything, 39 years. If anyone says I do it for good, for no money, don't take it. So they said that it will be an open source and so on, and currently this guy, Sam, was saying that yes, we have open APIs, everybody can use it. So the definition changed, and of course money talks. At the end of the day, you need to consider that who will do, how you have to pay the salaries and so on. The biggest scam was that they wanted to stay independent, and the moment they saw the 10 billion shiny US dollars of Microsoft, immediately, like the deal was closed in less than a month. People could not finish the reading of the news when Microsoft bought 49%. Dominant, strategic partner. And end of the race of anybody else to do the work with OpenAI.
They have very creative financing.
It's sort of like became too good for their own good.
Once they make enough money, then it all goes back to OpenAI and creative financing.
Money talks again.
I think Sam Altman said originally that they will ask AI how to make money. That was his original plan.
Sam has said it, we're going to figure out the business model, we'll ask the AI.
But I also want to comment that even though the API is API, they still open sourced a lot of things.
Yeah,
of course.
Besides the main thing, But even recently they they produced new type of generative AI model, and they released it immediately. They didn't close it. And the same with Whisper. Whisper is a really big thing as well, but people don't talk about it that much. That you can transcribe any language, any voice from any language to text, and so many people just started to use it in their products.
Yeah.
So OpenAI actually did a lot of stuff for open source as well.
The same in our case, right? We're building our SDK fully open source, and we're planning to build more and more things in the open source and build open tools, etc. And we're an open platform.
Until the moment that you see you can make money out of it, you will. Do you know AutoGPT? It announced today. It writes code. You can go to the Git and you can download the source code of it. And then Auto, like AUTO GPT. And you can go and download the whole thing of it. It cannot make much of money, but it writes, I don't know if you do it in Python, Python codes, unbelievable. I mean, at least I didn't see any error yet. ChatGPT is not that good. So, and I believe that the moment that they start to create something which will be much more tangible, then they will start to close it, the API will be open source and so on.
Actually, practical example. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, practical example. You said like we're gonna close it down when we like see some money. So actually, practical example. One of our like competitors doing avatars, they use our code like one-to-one, and we're okay with that because MIT license and let them do it.
It's open source already.
Okay. Vista, you also wanted to say something?
Well, one question I had for you guys is regarding the open sourcing. Do you think if, for example, let's say that you have a blueprint to a nuclear bomb, do you think that would be a good idea to open source it, just for argument's sake?
Could be. Yeah, I mean, it depends how much money. But
No, it's a great mechanism of protection.
Absolutely.
You know, let's say, for example, like many security companies are just open sourcing their SDKs just for the sake of all the code is out in the open. The way the encryption is made, the way essentially all the proprietary part is open source, and that gives trust. And of course, contributions from open source as well, if you want to fix a particular bug or a security issue, for example. But long term, just having more things available in the open means more eyeballs are on the particular tools. Like, you know, for example, if your let's say government wants to, I don't know, take you down as an individual, then probably the best thing to do is go to media and let everyone know. So the same, I think, applies for like open source code.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Guys, let's maybe wrap it here. I don't know how we got from games and virtual world and all this fun AI directing our experiences and this gloomy out for doomsday scenarios. But it was useful, interesting. I think we'll be around, I don't know how long you'll have us, another hour maybe?
Yeah,
online or something?
Yeah.
It's okay. There's very nice food and drinks up there. We do have some XR devices with us, as we always do. There is PSVR 2 if somebody wants to try a Quest Pro and check out some outdoor stuff. And yeah, otherwise, thank you for the panelists and thank you for